to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and I'm always honored and considered a great honor to have with us Tom Del Beccaro. I value and appreciate his friendship and his knowledge and experience. He's the author of a new book called The Lessons of the American Civilization, and it's not a long book, but it's a powerful book, and I think you'll find it to be very valuable. He's a former chairman of the California Republican Party, so we share those dirty T-shirts. He's the author of two historical perspectives, The Divided Era and the New Conservative Paradigm. He's also a columnist for Fox News, Fox Business, Epoch Times, and the publisher of the politicalvanguard.com. Tom does have his own website, tomdell.com, and there's a picture of that landing page. Brother Tom, good to see you, friend. How are you, bud?
I'm doing great. If I could hijack this segment for a minute. My mother survived 7 cancers. She eventually died of something else. I'm going to tear up just talking about this. But after 5 of them, she went out and not created, but and made very large a ministry in the Bay Area, helping unwed mothers from the moment they came to her to conception with her local church. She became Catholic Diocesan Woman of the Year and was recognized for Pope Benedict. So when you ask, are there miracles? I can't, I'm not saying that she should have sainthood for all that she did, but how do you survive all of that to go on to help so many? That's my personal experience. And twice she was on medical in the hospital where doctors had essentially given up on her, and she came back. So that's my experience and why we should cherish life and hold on to it, life with a capital L, as best we can.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, because part of my new mission here is to help all of us believers to strengthen our faith and to seriously consider that we do serve a miracle-working God. And it may not come out the way we think it should, but at the end, when you look back, you realize there is literally divine intervention. And we got to recognize that.
Certainly George Washington believed that during the Revolutionary War, when he was on Long Island. A very rare fog came after they were being pursued, and he was able to leave Long Island for Manhattan Island. And if that fog hadn't have been there, they would have been wiped out in all likelihood, and the revolution would have been over. And George Washington certainly believed in miracles. So we need people. You know, remember there was a song when you and I were kids about what the world needs now, and the answer was love. But in truth, I think it needs people who actually believe. I was amused the other day. I saw a video of Christopher Hitchens talking, the atheist, talking about, well, there is no God. Otherwise, why was he so incompetent and allowed so much suffering, and on and on and on? Mm-hmm. To which I shake my head and say, well, it turns out that even though when I hold my new son and he smiles at me, I think there's heaven on earth, earth isn't heaven. Mm-hmm. And if everything was perfect, there'd be no point to all of this. So, yeah, there is humans, there's free will in my beliefs, mm-hmm. and trial and error. And the whole point of life is, well, we don't have to get too deep into that, but certainly we need more people who actually believe. And when I'm on the East Coast and I see Hasidic Jews, I often stop them and say, please hold on to your belief.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. I want to turn our attention to some things you've been writing about, and that is Governor Newsom now with higher political ambitions. But I want to play a clip that I had earlier this morning he made a statement in an interview that he gave the other day. And so let me play this clip for you and then have you comment. So here's Governor Newsom being interviewed. It speaks for itself. Here it is.
I would argue of our former president, who I think was one of the most successful presidents in the last century, and that is Joe Biden. And I will defend that to my grave. The fact that he had a worker-centered industrial policy, and the fact that those are the right policies for this country.
They're all getting undone, right? I mean, everything.
A lot of them.
If you want to read a political obituary, Gavin Newsom just wrote his if he decides to run for president in terms of Republican ad after Republican ad. I mean, there is no one on the planet outside of maybe Karine Jean-Pierre, Jill and Hunter Biden, and Joe Biden himself, if he's not coherent, who believes that Joseph R. Biden was one of the most successful presidents of the past 100 years.
So, Tom, we know that he's going to run for president, but did he just make a fatal mistake by saying Joe Biden was the best president in the last century?
I'm hesitating because Newsom doesn't actually really believe in anything. He's the opposite of faith. He will say whatever he thinks is okay for the moment. Now, for the moment, he is perceived by the left as a fighter against Trump, and that's the number 1, 2, and 3 category of what it takes to get the nomination. And there are some polls showing him ahead, one poll showing Pete Buttigieg. And of course, Newsom's a policy failure. But what struck me about that is he said that Newsom had an industrial policy favoring the worker. I'm sorry, that Biden did. We do not need centralized government with an industrial policy. That's what's got us into all these troubles, is people in Washington thinking they know how to run our lives. So did he make a fatal mistake? No, he's just piling on. And I in my podcast, Politics in Perspective, I had Carla Marinucci on, a longtime columnist for the Chronicle and Politico, who covered him since he was a San Francisco traffic commissioner, believe it or not. And she thinks he's not able to win because he's gone too far and he's peaking too early. So fatal mistake, not for the nomination, but depending on who Republicans put up, he's too far left for the country.
Okay, so let's step back a little bit. How would you describe, with your experience and knowledge and being there, how would you describe the condition of the state of California today?
It is a triumph of capitalism in certain sectors, and it is the most blessed square footage in the world. And it is proof of what dumb policy can do to hurt all of that. It's last in the country in opportunity, last in affordability, number 1 in poverty, in the high 40s bad in education and crime. And I don't know what other metric you would want to consider if you were choosing someone to lead at a higher office. To be sure, Newsom inherited those things, but he has not improved any of them. So why would I hire someone who has no marker of success?
Okay, but the left is desperate. They have nobody. Governor Newsom seems to be positioning himself to be the Trump of the left. In other words, talk tough, be tough, act tough, say tough things.
With dumb policies, though.
I understand that. I understand that. I mean, he just made one in that interview. But the point being is that all they got? Is that the left? I mean, does Cory Booker come out? Does Pete Buttigieg? Who else is going to show up and give them a run?
So think about who the Democrats at this moment in time are pushing in offices. You have, in New Jersey, you have Mikey Sherrill, who has really no executive experience whatsoever to be governor. Spanberger in Virginia, same story. Mondami in New York City has never had a job. Newsom, who has no successful executive experience at any level, but he gets to be governor. In my latest Substack piece, I remind people that there was a 2018 article in the Sacramento Bee. You know that's no right-wing conspirator operation. There was an article that said that he is the perhaps best example of white privilege, no record, but we push him forward. So the Democrats have no successful executives because in the last 30 years, their policies have been far left government centric, and those always fail. So when people ask who are their candidates, the answer is they're demagogues, because that's what happens to parties in the socialist when they become socialists. They only have demagogues. They have no record of success.
Sticking with California just for a moment, you have an election coming up, and on that ballot is something that Governor Newsom has pushed, and that is the gerrymandering of what, I don't know how you take a blue state and redistrict it to become more blue, but he's trying to do that. But what was interesting to me is that the survey showed 56% of Californians do support that. I thought it would be a whole lot higher. Is that measure in trouble?
It's going to be very close. So my group, Election Fairness, as we speak, is contacting voters, Republicans, to get out and vote, because Republicans wait till the last day to vote, which is proven not always a good idea, especially in California. So there are a lot of Democrats who don't like Newsom. In fact, a majority say he shouldn't run for president. And so they have a jaundiced view of him. And so it should be close, barring no shenanigans, and it could lose, but there's a lot of people out there saying it's going to win in an effort to discourage Republicans.
Okay. If by chance this measure fails, that would be a huge blow to him, wouldn't it?
Perry, you continue to be burdened by rationality. You would think. The answer is they run Don Quixotes with the same level of success that Don Quixote had.
Yeah, okay, I get it. A couple of other questions before I change here a little bit. How bad is the homeless situation in California?
Well, he spent $24 billion on it, and it went from 55,000 to 100-something thousand. So imagine what he could do for the country. In pockets, it's exceptionally bad. Ronald Reagan once said that government doesn't solve problems, it institutionalizes them. The person who's the head of homelessness for LA County makes more than the President of the United States. Government is a business. These programs are employers on the left. So it is bad. It is not getting better because, in the immortal words of the movie, now I'm going to forget it, Kevin Costner movie, If You Build It, They Will Come. So it is bad enough to discourage business from the major cities.
All right, let me take a rational and reality break.
Field of dreams.
Let me take a...
Which California is no longer.
Okay. All right, let me take a quick, let's see, rational and reality break. And we'll be right back. Get a hold of Tom. TomDell.com is his website, but also get a copy of his book. Look, this is a pocket You talk about rational reality. The Lessons of the American Civilization. There's a picture of the cover of the book. It's not a big book. It's not a long book. It's a powerful book. You'll end up writing. In fact, you probably end up speaking from it. Just make sure you quote and give him the credit. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. An honor to have with us Tom Del Beccaro's with us. You might want to check out his book. I think you'll find it to be a real resource. It's called The Lessons of the American Civilization. He also is a columnist for Fox News, Fox Business, Epoch Times, and he's the publisher of the Political Vanguard, politicalvanguard.com. There's a picture of the cover of the book. He does have a website, tomdell.com. Tom, before I leave all the California interesting things, I'm very familiar with the state, born and raised in Sacramento. I started my broadcast career there in Sacramento at KCRA when Governor Reagan was governor. He'd come into our studio on a regular basis. I always admired his shiny shoes.
What a great experience.
Yeah. I flew the traffic plane there for many years, and so that's my hometown. Duck hunted where the airport is, so I know that area very, very well. I still have family down there that's slowly exiting, some who've been in the agricultural business for quite some time. With the fires and the crime and the nonsense, they literally can't afford the insurance to stay in business, and yet insurance companies are leaving. Is it really that bad?
Yeah, buying a new home in California is not just a function of finding the house, but it's also whether you can get insurance for the house. Because California, for more than 2 decades, did not engage in proper management, not just of forests, but of wooded areas, insurance companies are on the hook for these fires, along with often energy companies, PG&E and otherwise, although Newsom let them off the hook a little bit there in this last budget. So yes, it's a difficult issue. You have to, in the old days, you bought a house and you assumed fire insurance for that. You can't make that assumption now. Obamacare prices in California are supposed to go up. At Political Vanguard, we ran a story where in some cases they expect it to double. Talk about a failure, and we can talk about why those government systems fail. But the cost of living in California is the #1 issue. That's why it's last in the country in affordability, according to a U.S. News and World Report study, which again, that's not right wing, that's left of center. And yeah, California is unaffordable, which is why so many people since the 90s and millions have left. California leads the country in people leaving the state for other states.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to swing your attention to a couple of other things. New York's about ready to have a mayoral election, excuse me. Mondani is leading, but his lead is being cut. I guess we could all talk all day about him, but a couple of questions here. Do you see him winning, and if so, how bad is that? Or could he possibly lose as New Yorkers begin to wake up?
Well, the early voting is favoring those older than 50 years old, or that at least that demographic is coming out in greater numbers than some expected. So perhaps that indicates this race is going to be closer, but it's quite possible and even likely that he will win. Remember, they have ranked choice voting. There are 3 people in the race. So the question becomes, where do those secondary votes go? And they could well go to him. All the Cuomo, a good portion of the Cuomo votes are going to go to him if he doesn't reach 50%, and he may not. And so there's a good chance he could win. It is really bad if he wins because New York City has one of the most sophisticated, entrenched bureaucracies of any government outside the U.S. federal government in the world. And he's never run a board meeting, let alone had a job or done anything like that. And he's going to bring in a whole bunch of ideologues, not people who've managed things in their lives. So the story 6-7 months from now will not be just some of his policies that are anti-police or anti-law enforcement. If he gets the city council to agree with him on free buses and that impact. But a great deal of it will be his total incompetence. And a couple months ago, I ran a piece that he, Brandon Johnson, excuse me, and Karen Bass in LA will define the Democrats in the midterms. Because those are the big stories over the next 6 months. And yeah, it's going to be very bad for New York. I don't know how crazy he's going to be in the sense that he's going to push forward anti-Jewish or Islamic protocols, like if you go to places in Michigan where they have prayer in the middle of the street during the day, will he push those kind of things in New York City? How many businesses will actually leave all of this? So yeah, it's really bad.
There's more coming out that there's an interesting twist to this. Even though he's being promoted as a socialist, an Islamic socialist, which is almost, I don't know how you put those two together, but the word socialist is being used as a subterfuge or a disguise of what he really is, and that is that he wants to bring in forms of Sharia law. He's also made mention that if Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu shows up in town, he's going to have him arrested, and that the New York Police Department has been heavily influenced by the IDF. Those are comments that I don't think you can just ignore, when his background is more Islamic and Sharia law than it is democracy and capitalism, but it's being pitched as socialism. What are we getting here?
Honestly, we don't ultimately know until he does this. He's an outright liar. I mean, he made up this story about his aunt getting dirty looks on the subway after 9/11. He just made it up. And then when that was brought out to him, then he made it up. He said, you're focusing on the wrong thing. And we're focusing on the fact that you're a liar. And that's a question of character. So it's hard to know how, like I said before, how far he's going to go. But New York City is arguably the most important city in the world. I realize Tokyo's got 30 million, but New York is a big financial center, and businesses are fleeing, and so are people. So this is bad for the U.S. economy if he does half of what he wants. Now, I don't know if he's going to be able to get much done at all because of how incompetent he is, and I think he will lead with his social agenda, if you will, as opposed to like social justice related to the police as he defines it and all of those things. Nothing really beneficial for the city, and that may ground him to a halt. I don't know.
Where does Wall Street go if it decides to pack up and leave?
Well, there's more people in the financial sector in Texas than in New York. When you and I were kids back in the early 30s, that wasn't true at all. So that's already a truth. A lot of hedge funds have moved to Florida. You saw a huge hedge fund leave Chicago for Florida. So Florida and Texas is your answer.
One last question, Tom. Again, thanks for your time. When does California hit the wall?
It bottomed out. It's bottomed out on crime. Depending on who the next governor is, it could well be during those 4 to 8 years. Katie Porter has no executive skills if she somehow won. But the argument against that is if this Prop 50 passes and redistricting occurs as they envision it, more and more people are going to leave, and so there's just not enough votes to stop them. But there also needs to be a vibrant Republican Party that provides an alternative, and we haven't seen that yet because so many Republicans, dare I say, have lost faith.
I hear you. Experience that. I get it. Tom, thanks for your time. We value it greatly. Thank you for sharing your faith with us as well. That is just a subtle reminder for us to stay focused where it really counts. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, check out Tom's book. It's called The Lessons of the American Civilization. There's a picture of the cover of the book. Like I said, it's not a big book, it's not a long book, but it's a powerful book, and you will really enjoy it. Thanks, buddy. God bless you, pal.
See you soon.